This is CBC Here and Now.
Motorists should expect to see a lot more scenes like this. A record $1.4 billion announced today for road improvements throughout the province.
Today's announcement was an absolutely fabulous announcement. The industry is delighted to hear that.
It does mean that roads are being taken seriously.
That story coming up.
So anything that will come into Newfoundland would need to be going to Halifax for screening first.
Security screening rules are changing and it's affecting Argentia. CBC Investigates will tell you about the move by the Canada Border Services Agency, how it could impact businesses and your wallet.
Protesters descended on multiple locations in St. John's today to protest crab quotas. More on that just ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. It was a busy day in politics as the Liberal government made even more announcements ahead of tomorrow's provincial budget. In the past 2 weeks, the province has made a total of more than $100 million in pre-budget spending or tax promises, and today they unveiled a massive roads plan, one they say will modernize the province's transportation infrastructure and help showcase Newfoundland and Labrador to visitors. Here Now's Terry Roberts has the details.
Politicians gathered in an historic setting today, the Colonial Building, for what they called a monumental announcement.
Over the next 5 years, your provincial government will make a historic and important investment of nearly $1.4 billion in highway and roads infrastructure.
The latest and most significant of a long list of pre-budget spending announcements. But this one with the biggest price tag of them all, in the same building where politicians once debated whether to complete the Trans-Canada Highway across Newfoundland.
Imagine what the place will look like with $1.4 billion of provincial funding in our roads and infrastructure.
An enthusiastic reaction from tourism and construction groups.
So when you see a multi-year funding agreement like this, it does mean that roads are being taken seriously. It does mean to us that people recognize how important it is to get to both rural and urban areas to experience tourism. So from that perspective, we're very pleased.
A lot of people are going to go to work. The industry is going to be able to make better business decisions. Knowing what's coming year over year absolutely allows contractors to buy more equipment, invest in the right equipment for the amount of work that's going to be coming. So this is just an excellent announcement here today.
Earlier this month, the province announced a record $225 million in road upgrades for the coming year, teasing at the time that more good news would follow. The record funding comes a year after the completion of the Trans-Labrador Highway. It's big spending for a province saddled with record debt, but the finance minister says it's a worthwhile price to pay for modern, safe highways.
This is about being strategic, it's about being responsible.
No specifics today on where all this money will be spent, but we know it will not be invested in the long-delayed Team Gushu Highway here in St. John's. That's a joint project with the federal government, and the Premier says to stay tuned on that front. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the government announcements kept rolling today with a new way to pay doctors. The provincial government and the Newfoundland and Labrador Medical Association have agreed to a new system that pays doctors for each patient they take on, not just each visit to the doctor's office. But will it solve the doctor shortage? Here Now's Mark Quinn has the details.
Here's the Premier's explanation of how blended capitation will work.
Blended capitation is a new model of payment for physicians that breaks a doctor's pay into two essential parts. 80% is basically an annual salary that is determined by the number of patients attached to a practice. And the remaining 20% is billed at a reduced fee-for-service model, similar to the traditional model that is currently in place.
The province and the Medical Association say it will improve living and working conditions for primary care physicians. And they say that makes it easier to recruit and keep doctors. And if there are more doctors, patients will have better access to care. The health minister says the new payment model will improve care for patients.
The benefit to patients belong to a team as opposed to a singular physician. There's an expectation of more timely access to physicians under blended capitation. including after hours.
There's normal license.
Family doctors can still opt to continue with the old fee-for-service model, but the NLMA's president expects many of the hundreds of family doctors now working here will find this new payment model attractive.
Last year, we surveyed our family medicine members about blended capitation, and 84% of respondents said that they are interested in considering this type of payment model for their practice.
Details of the tentative agreement aren't being released just yet. The Medical Association wants to present it to doctors for ratification first. That's expected to happen early next week. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
The provincial government is introducing a new law that requires officials to document important decisions that are made within government. This was recommended during a review back in 2015 and again at the Muskrat Falls inquiry, where the commissioner found missing information.
We really didn't want to create an additional burden on public bodies, so we're trying to get the balance where this is something that's reasonable and very important for people to do when they're making important decisions, but we also don't want to create an additional burden for decisions that may or may not be that are lower level and not deemed important.
But this new law is facing criticism from the Information and Privacy Commissioner. Michael Harvey is worried that Cabinet is going to be exempt from documenting its decisions. He's also concerned that there will be a government official who oversees this, not someone independent like his office, and that the duty to document won't actually be mandatory. The Chief Information Officer can decide to back out. This afternoon, the PC and the NDP leaders also shared their concerns. They say government should examine the issue more before pushing ahead with legislation.
It's a piece of legislation that's that in-depth. The night before it's to be presented in the House of Assembly to be debated, that speaks volumes about that they were afraid we would find out what we did, that there are a lot of loopholes here that actually give so much power to Cabinet that the information that's relevant to the people of this province could never be shared with them.
Hence, we would support the amendment by the opposition to let's delay this for a few months until we can get all of our ducks in a row. It's not an emergency, but I think it will be an emergency if we don't deal with it properly.
Good evening, Heather Gillis here with your weather on the way, and it looks like most parts of the province will see a few flurries tonight, depending on where you are. And it looks like we will have flurries and sun tomorrow, so another pretty decent day, not unlike today. But when it comes to Friday and Saturday into the weekend, it looks like we do have a storm coming with 15 to possibly even 30 centimeters of snow coming our way if you are in the eastern half of the province. That snow could be on the Bonavista Peninsula, it could be here on the Avalon. Too early to say yet, but we're watching it along with our friends at Environment Canada. Taking a look at our future tracker now, we'll have some scattered flurries across much of the island tonight and across some parts of Labrador before things do start to clear out. And this will be our weather maker into the weekend. We'll talk about that more a little later.
Well, tonight on CBC Investigates, we take you to Argentia, where there are concerns about how the Canada Border Services Agency is now enforcing rules about security screening for cargo that's coming in to the province from international ports. A decision that could have a big impact on businesses and could hit you right in your wallet. Here now's Rob Antle has the details.
A cargo ship on the waters this morning about to dock at the port of Argentia, laden with containers of goods. But vessels like this one are now being impacted by a recent decision from the Canada Border Services Agency.
Anything that would come into Newfoundland would need to be going to Halifax for screening first.
As part of a suite of anti-terrorism measures brought in after 9/11, containers coming from international ports into Canada have to be taken off ships and screened for radiation. There's no scanner to do that in Argentia, but it wasn't an issue for years, something that's now changed.
The loss of that option for time-sensitive and direct delivery into the province is going to be a significant thing for our local economy, our consumers and businesses.
Longer shipping times resulting in larger price tags for consumers.
If you're getting a laptop that you're purchasing from overseas somewhere, it might be $1,000, and now with all these extra segment costs, it might be $1,200.
Many companies in Newfoundland, in other parts of Canada, that are going to be impacted by this charge.
Icewater Seafoods employs 200 people in Arnold's Cove. They operate year-round and focus on North Atlantic cod, exporting to customers in Europe and North America. The company's president says the new rules have already had an impact, an extra $56,000 in costs to import 100 containers of raw material to supplement their local supply of cod. On top of that, another worry, whether all of this could lead the international cargo company MSkip to question the viability of its service in Argentia.
The bigger concern is if we lose the MSkip service and we have to bring containers in through Halifax or through some other port and truck them to Newfoundland and truck out our outgoing product, it's going to make our lives extremely difficult.
In an email to CBC News, MSkip said the CBSA's decision has created complications and additional cost, and we hope that the relevant authorities will resolve the issue quickly and efficiently so we can continue to offer our good service in Argentia. The CBSA wouldn't do an interview, but said in a statement that an internal evaluation brought this issue to light, that an increasing number of marine containers were arriving at ports not equipped to screen for radiation, saying it's critical for that scanning to happen, and that's why it's now being enforced. The agency says it's continuing to work closely with local stakeholders on this issue, including the Port of Argentia. Newhook has no issue with the security protocol being enforced, but he says they were hoping for a grace period to comply, and they're lobbying to have a scanner installed at the port.
While it might be, a couple or $3 million of equipment and the folks to run it, it's our whole provincial economy that's being choked by not being able to have that facility on site. So, we believe there's a strong case.
He says that investment is not much when stacked up against the alternative. Rob Antle, CBC News, Argentia.
Crab fishermen disrupted union negotiations on Monday, and they voiced their frustrations again today. The demands are the same, but this time the protests hit several locations throughout St. John's. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm explains.
The situation is heating up. It started here in the morning with a blocked-off road and a walk right up to the doors.
We found out that the precautionary approach has essentially put us inside of a box, and we're at the maximum of that box.
They fish in an inshore area called 3L that runs from Bonavista Bay on the northeast coast to St. Mary's Bay on the southern Avalon. To protect crab stocks, the federal government created 2 crab biomasses in Area 3L, one inshore, one offshore. Inshore fishers fear there's less for them to catch.
I'm fairly intelligent, but I can't understand for the life of me how you can say that an imaginary line is separating and making 2 different biomasses. And DFO is coming back and saying, well, we believe it is, but we don't got the science done on it yet.
A meeting with Seamus O'Regan Monday night and DFO managers yesterday brought them no clear answer.
They wouldn't give us a good answer other than we'll review it, we'll review it. So, as long as they keep reviewing it, this is what we're going to have here.
A statement from DFO says the 3L Inshore Division has existed since 2012, with no new divisions created recently. The department has held the 2023 snow crab science stock assessment and completed 10 separate consultations. The science advice, newly established precautionary approach framework, stakeholder input, fisheries policies, and socioeconomic factors are to be considered in making management decisions for the 2023 snow crab fishery. At the next location, protesters demanded more support from their union and to halt its price negotiations.
I'm going to go back to President Gregg and the committee and to say, this is the main focus right now, is to get this issue resolved. The price negotiations, until we get this resolved, we gotta deal with that here.
A statement from the union expresses support for the protesters, but also a call to stop threats to union members. They ended the day off here at Confederation Building.
I've been fishing man a lifetime. A whole lifetime. He does nothing. You're in with your hands in your pocket, bicker, fighting like a bunch of children.
Sir, Ryan,
you're not solving it.
We're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, you're going to have a conversation. You're the whole time having conversations, but nothing comes out of the conversation.
3L Inshore consists of 5 different areas, and protesters announced they would block off 1 crab area every day, trying to wear officials out until their demands are met. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Police have arrested a teenager in relation to graffiti on public and private properties in St. John's last weekend. On Saturday night, around 11:30, the RNC responded to an area of downtown where a tagging was in process. Police say multiple businesses and private properties have sustained graffiti damage, and they believe multiple people were involved. So far, a 17-year-old man from Mount Pearl was charged with property damage. He was released to appear at a court at a later date. Meanwhile, the RNC says there has been increased reports of property damage downtown. Their investigation into the issue remains active. Some good news for snowmobilers after mild weather and extreme rain in Labrador forced this year's Canes Quest to call it quits. Organizers say the race will be back next year. This year's version of the race was postponed twice before the board of directors made the difficult decision to shut it down entirely. It's the first time that's had to happen in the race's history. Normally the event happens every 2 years, but today organizers announced it won't be waiting until 2025 and will be, weather permitting, planning to hold the race next March.
It's been 56 years that they've had it in central Newfoundland, and to be able to know that we can do it again, to be able to know that there's talent that we can present. I mean, how good is that?
After a break in performances during the pandemic, the Kiwanis Music Festival returns to Grand Falls, Windsor. We'll have more from that coming up after the break.
And in the weather forecast, it will be freezing tonight, well below freezing for many parts of the province, and a few flurries are expected to push across much of the island. We'll tell you about that, and a winter storm that could be brewing up next.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus prize deadline is midnight, Thursday, April 6th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Before we get into the storm that may be coming, it's my fault I mentioned Sheila's brush yesterday. And
you did. Blame Peter.
I unfortunately willed this into existence. But today was actually a nice day.
It was beautiful.
There was some sunshine.
I know. I was at lunch, and it's just one of those days where you just want to sit there and bask and not come inside.
It's the end of March, so the sun actually has a bit of oomph behind it.
Touch of warmth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I opened the blinds in my house and let it come in, and it actually warmed up the house.
Oh, how nice. How
so
nice
yeah,
is
we're starting
that?
to get into that. Where.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not going to stick around.
No, not a bad day across the province. Let's take a look at our current conditions in St. John's. Our high today was 2 degrees, so it wasn't that warm, even though we had a few beautiful sunshine rays to warm up our house and to bask in this morning. As warm as 4 on southern parts of the island, from Cape Race to Marystown, but a little cooler as we get into the west coast and to parts of the north coast of the island, about 1 degree there today. And of course, freezing as we get up into Labrador, temperatures ranging from -3 in Happy Valley Goose Bay to -9 in Labrador City Wabush area. When we factor in our wind chill this evening, it will be cooler. Of course, it won't be windy like it was earlier this week, but we will still have some wind chill values, feeling like -5 in St. John's, as cold as -10 and 11 for parts of the west coast. But Labrador City, the wind chill, Lab West, -16 right now, but overnight it could feel like -30, and you will have a risk of frostbite at that cold. So do bundle up if you are heading out anywhere in this region of the province. Taking a look at our future tracker now, we're going to have some scattered flurries pretty well right across much of southern Labrador and across the island, so we can see how that plays out into midnight. That's going to continue to push across the island and then kind of clear out right before the early morning hours, right before you start to get up for work tomorrow morning. Looking at tonight now. Flurries and freezing temperatures. That's the story for tonight. -6 in St. John's, where we could pick up about 2 centimeters of flurries. As we go west, we'll get a little bit more into Bonavista, Clarenville, that area, and in through Central. You could pick up about 2 to 4 centimeters. So still like a little bit of a dusting, not super shovelable for tomorrow morning when you wake up. Along the south coast, we will have some flurries as well, and a risk of snow squalls as we get to the west coast of the island on up into the Gross Morin area. So you'll have those flurries, but it could be a little bit heavier and blow around a little bit. As we get up into St. Anthony in the northern peninsula, another 2 to 4 there as well. A dusting in the Straits too, as you saw that all move across on the future tracker there. Snow and flurries up into Cartwright, Nain. You don't have any flurries, just some clouds for you folks tonight. You're the lucky ones. Happy Valley Goose Bay will see a few flurries, and so will Labrador City Wabush. And again, -30 with the wind chill there for you folks. Taking a look at the future tracker again from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning onwards, we're going to see a few flurries in the morning. Things will clear out. Many people will see a mix of sun and cloud as we head towards noon, but we get a risk of a few more flurries developing throughout the afternoon on Thursday. And then there's this for Friday. Could bring 15 to 30 centimeters of snow late Friday into Saturday, according to Environment Canada. And again, it depends on the track of where that low goes, where the maximum amount of snow will be. Right now, Environment Canada is telling us that it could be the Bonavista Peninsula, it could be the Avalon Peninsula. Friday night looking like we're gonna have a lot of blowing snow, depending on where this goes. Saturday, things could be a little wetter. So we are still watching to see what that could bring for us. For tomorrow, it looks like we're gonna have some flurries ending in the morning, mix of sun and cloud hovering around 1 for the Avalon and Bonavista, 2 in Marystown. As we go a little further west, conditions do look similar. We'll have some flurries, mix of sun and cloud, possibly some flurries in the afternoon as well, and 2 degrees along the west coast and going on up into the Avalon Peninsula. This is the northern peninsula. geography lesson for myself here now. -2. And as we get into Labrador, it looks like it'll be a chilly day with some sun for you folks, mix of sun and cloud for much of Labrador. We will have your long range taking a look at what things could be like for the weekend coming up a little later.
Voices are being warmed up and instruments tuned. It's music festival time for young people throughout the province. After a break for the pandemic, the Kiwanis Music Festival in Grand Falls, Windsor is preparing for its first in-person festival since 2019. Here now's Troy Turner has the story.
She's been competing at festivals since she was 9, and this year will be Abby Pittman's final Kiwanis Music Festival. Pittman says she's hoping for another award-winning performance.
I'm a big fan of constructive criticism because I want to do everything that I can to improve, and however that is, if it is being graded or someone telling me do this, don't do that. And it's nice to look back at the adjudications throughout the years and say, they always said this and now I improved that, but they say this now. So it's just nice to see what I did wrong and how I changed it and that type of thing. Lay me down easy in my mind, 'cause babe, I've got the blues and there's something.
Pittman will be performing 7 songs this year in voice, guitar, and on piano.
When I want to feel the music, I turn to my guitar, but if I want to express the music, I turn to my voice. But if I need to get it all out, I pair them together and see what happens. And sometimes I don't even know. I just want to play, and then whatever comes out, comes out.
The Holy Trinity Anglican Church is one of 5 venues for this year's festival, which begins this weekend.
We're not a big club. We're only 12 people. But in the same breath, the fact that we're so close to being able to have a festival again, because as I said, it's been 56 years that they've had it in central Newfoundland. And to be able to know that we can do it again, to be able to know that there's talent that we can present. I mean, how good is that?
David Oxford says it's great to be back to live performances.
It's been 2019 since we actually had the opportunity to have an actual in-person. So getting the people back interested in being able to attend, that's the biggest thing for us, I guess. But thankfully, we've also had the ability of people wanting to have that music and wanting to have that entertainment and see the kids being able to perform, because I mean that's the whole nature of the music festival, being able to see these children perform.
For students such as Abby Pittman, the last few days leading into the festival this weekend will be a time to practice and perfect everything she can just in time for that first performance. Troy Turner, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
I'm Paula Gale, host of the broadcast. The unpredictability of sea ice this year has been endangering marine mammals. We're going to talk to DFO scientist Jack Lawson about what you should do if you see an injured or dead sea mammal.
Fisheries and Oceans Canada is speaking up following a dramatic dolphin rescue on the south side of Trinity Bay. A rescue effort saved some dolphins trapped in the ice earlier this month, but now the agency is stressing safety when you're near wild animals. Host of CBC Radio's The Broadcast, Paula Gale, met up with Jack Lawson to chat about some of the do's and don'ts.
This would be normal for our time of year. We should have a lot of sea ice from the coastline out to hundreds of miles. Often if it's been cold, it'll be frozen together, and it's where a lot of animals come to breed, like harp seals and hooded seals and so on. But it can be risky if it moves around, and that's what we've seen in the last few weeks.
So what can you tell us about the number of marine mammals that have died this winter due to the ice conditions?
Well, we only know those that are reported, of course. It's a huge coastline, but so far it's probably in excess of 70 to 75 white-beaked dolphins this year so far.
If I saw a dead seal here, would I call DFO? Like, really, what would you do if you did see a dead seal on a beach?
For us, I mean, we probably get reports of hundreds of dead seals this time of year, and so it's part of nature. You know, these animals have died naturally in most cases. From falling and drowning or getting crushed in the ice, and so you just let them be. It's part of the natural system, and they'll be food for consumers like seagulls and so on. But they do carry some bacteria and other things that you don't want to have brought back into your household. So we know they carry things like brucellosis, some herpes virus are found on seals, possible evidence of avian influenza in different parts of the world being transmitted to seals. So it's something that you just don't want to mix with as yourself, as a human, or your pets. So we ask that people keep their dogs away, particularly if they've got dogs, keep them on a leash if they're around live or dead marine mammals on the shore.
If I saw injured or dead dolphins somewhere in Newfoundland and Labrador, either in the water or on a beach, what should I do?
The same sort of thing, contact your local fisheries office if it's a dead dolphin, because it's of interest to us in terms of knowing what's happening out there, but also I'm occasionally able to collect samples from it. So it gives me things like the age of the animal, what it might have died of. Maybe it was ice, maybe it was entrapment in gear. If it's a live animal, so it's injured or is entrapped in the case of these whitebeaks that we've seen here, we really want to know quickly because there's a chance for us to rescue those animals if it's appropriate. And so again, contact your local fisheries office or contact Tangley Whales, who's our contractor for doing these type of rescues.
We've had quite a few whales succumb to injuries due to changing sea ice conditions. Is that a concern this year so far?
Luckily, we haven't seen anything larger caught in the ice. So you might recall back in 2014, we had more than 9 blue whales, which are extremely endangered and trapped and killed in ice off the southwest coast. And so when ice is moving around like this, I'm always worried about that happening. So far this year, no reports of larger animals, but we do occasionally get humpbacks, pilot whales and things that will make the same mistakes as the whitebeaks are, get into a bay, the ice traps them in, and they perish.
Is there anything that can be done to scare them away from some areas if you know that they may become trapped?
Yeah, it's a difficult choice. I mean, there's so many areas in the coastline that could be an entrapment area for these types of animals. So people have asked us before, why don't you put clangers or sound warnings in the water so it keeps animals away? But of course, biologically, there's a reason why the animals are here. They're coming in the spring, they may be starting their feeding, they're taking the risk to be in this area for something. And so do we then try and scare them away from an area that they're obviously trying to be in? And there's not even a lot of evidence that it works for a long period of time. So animals that are really intent on feeding will often ignore alarms. So there's really no easy way to prevent something like this that happens as part of a natural process. So for us, it's more concerning that the global ice conditions are worsening, as everybody knows, perhaps because of climate change. And so going forward in the future, these type of entrapments may become more common. And so, I'm just wondering what that will mean for us in the future with higher winds and worse ice.
A company on PEI is hoping to turn a problem for the fishing industry into a solution by creating an alternative bait. As the CBC's Nancy Russell reports, the secret ingredient is seal.
This is the first production run for the new bait sausages, made of 50% seal, 50% mackerel. Bait Masters started making these bait sausages several years ago, opening this facility in 2021. They've tried many blends of oil and fish and other organic matter stuffed into a biodegradable casing.
They say the rich, oily seal could be a breakthrough.
So far, I think seal would probably be one of the higher end as far as quality goes with oil and fat. I would consider it the Cadillac of all the baits that we've had tried to make.
Mark Prevost traveled to the Magdalen Islands to watch the seals being harvested. The association that represents sealers in the Maggies is excited about the new bait sausages.
The immense population of seal, especially gray seal, has a detrimental effect on the many fish species at the moment because, of course, seals eat a lot. So we have less bait. So it makes total sense to use them as bait.
Bait Masters has hired an expert to help them make their case for the seal bait sausages, including whether they pose any danger to the ecosystem.
That's the ideal situation. We are not bringing seals from waters other than our Canadian waters.
Pierre-Yves Daou says sourcing seals from the region makes scientific sense, and the large number of gray and harp seals has also been scientifically verified.
Their numbers have been increasing since the 1970s. So we know that they are at a level that can be exploited in a sustainable manner.
The Sealers Association says the seal sausages could also create more jobs in Canada instead of purchasing bait from other countries. Bait Masters has pre-sold these sausages for use in the spring fishery. If all goes well, they say, this could be the start of something big.
This is pretty much the best one we've come across, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of different blends. This one seems to be the most popular already.
Hoping the seal will seal their place in the alternative bait industry. Nancy Russell, CBC News, 9 Mile Creek.
Well, preparations for Ramadan are well underway. And Sarah, I've got to blow up all of these balloons?
No, I can't.
Okay, she's going to get started on that. We're going to tell you what's going on over in Safa's kitchen coming up.
Hi, I'm Adam Walsh, host and producer of The Signal. We brought the show to the Rooms in St. John's to spend the whole hour talking about sharing our culture. So if you look behind me, see a bunch of young people talking to people at booths. Well, it's all about sharing cultural traditions, cultural backgrounds, so food, clothing, festivals, all of it. And we spoke to people from a number of different countries and backgrounds from around the world and across this province. Check it out.
I have 33 cultural displays here from every part of the world you can think about. We do have some students who are here from Labrador, from Sheheshi, Goose Bay, as well as Northwest River. And then we have students who are here from Thailand, Philippines, Ghana.
I've been talking about Pashtun clothing. There are 3 provinces in Pakistan, but they mainly know Pakistan's culture based on the main 2 ones. But nobody really knows much about KPK or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but they're mainly like descendants from Iran and Afghanistan, so their culture is very similar to Afghanistan's culture.
I'm talking about food from Jamaica, especially traditional food. So I've been talking about like ackee and saltfish, which is our national dish, beef patties, jerk chicken, you know.
We've been talking about a celebration from our country called Songkran Day. It's a festival that happens on 13 and 15 April, and it's like a celebration of Thai New Year.
Yeah, and what people normally do is like have a water fight and celebrate this festival with their families.
We had one student which came from a school. I asked him that, what do you think about Afghanistan? What do you actually think? He said war. I got very disappointed because today as a sharing our culture, I'm an Afghan girl who came from Afghanistan, who immigrated in India for 7 years, who is now here in Newfoundland, and I'm here and I'm the voice of every woman, every girls who are in Afghanistan who cannot continue their education. I just really want to talk about them, that yes, Afghan women have the right. They are very powerful, they are very strong. Yeah, they are really strong, and they have the right to study and to grow to become a successful woman. And Afghanistan is a very positive place. Instead of war, there is unseen, untouched places. Everyone in Afghanistan, foreigners, everyone, YouTubers, they came, and we always, our doors, our home is always open to them, and our heart too.
My presentation has been about Meshkanu, which means the good path, basically explaining how we've been moving around all the time, like as Innu. Like we've never stayed in one place. We've always been moving around, and basically we've just been talking about the importance of it.
Ramadan celebrations are well underway in this St. John's home, and a lot of people here know Safa from Safa's Kitchen, and you've been busy. Happy Ramadan.
Thank you so much. And Ramadan Mubarak for everyone, every Muslim celebrate Ramadan.
Safa, you have been so busy. A lot of people know you from the St. John's Farmers Market, of course, and love your delights. Just tell us a little bit about what's kept you busy here.
Yes, we prepare for Ramadan. I prepare now for 1 week before Ramadan. I just made today in the morning Ramadan bread. We have to have this bread for every night for iftar and suhoor, and this dates. We start eating with dates every day. When we start to eat, we start with dates. It's good for body, for blood.
Beautiful. Can you tell us what these dishes are called? I can't believe they smell so good. I wish we had smell-o-vision.
Yes, it's called ma'rouk in Arabic. It's inside date, ma'rouk with tamar. And this one, it's khibz Ramadan bread. And this one is something decoration for like Hilal Ramadan, it's called.
It is very intricate and actually just very beautiful looking. How did you actually physically make this?
Yeah, I am chef. I decoration from my,
Looks like a lot of folds.
Yeah, yes.
It's absolutely gorgeous. During the period of Ramadan, how does your meal schedule change? How will things work?
It's not easy to schedule for Ramadan, and absolutely for children's school. We eat 3:30 before sunrise. We stop to eat until 7 sundown. During the day, my children will be going to school, and I am and my husband, we read Quran, we pray, going to shopping to prepare for supper at 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's not easy for children.
Kind of hard because we have to like sit in our class because when people are eating for like lunch, we get like kind of hungry, so sometimes they take us down to the music room. And yeah, and it's actually really helpful if we go down to the music room and we don't have to see people eating, so we don't get like hungry. The most thing I like in Ramadan is sometimes like I get to see my friends. The most important part about Ramadan is like spending time with family and the Quran, reading the Quran and praying, and sometimes helping my mom with food, cooking. And my favorite part of before Ramadan is decorating. I really like to decorate because like it just gives me a Ramadan vibe.
What is Ramadan?
People say we are fasting. That's only a part of it. It's the month of tranquility, the month of cure, the month of goodness, the month of forgiveness, the month of being a Muslim, the month of cure, the month of the Quran, the month of mercy.
What does it mean to you to be able to share your culture and your food with the people of St. John's?
First, when I start, I was too nervous and I was scared as people don't like it. But when I started, I was so surprised. Many people know about our food, about shawarma, about falafel. And when I said I have shawarma, I have falafel, oh, wow, I know shawarma, I know falafel. We like it, we want, and alhamdulillah, it's so good now. My business bigger and bigger, yeah.
So what will Ramadan mean for your business?
It's good for me. It's many people order food from me for iftar. Yeah, and I doing for month for student, Muslim for Muslim student for 2 days a week for iftar. Yeah, like around 200 persons. I cook for 200 persons.
Where will you find the energy to do that much cooking?
Yeah, we are family business. We do all we help together.
Okay, so you're going to be busy.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful. It feels so festive. And for anybody watching right now and they want to wish those celebrating Ramadan a happy Ramadan, what would I say?
Yes, happy Ramadan and Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Yeah, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
After nearly 15 years of negotiation, some members of the Canadian military are going to get help with housing costs. Forces members of lower rank and lower pay will receive a subsidy to make sure their housing costs don't exceed 25% of their gross monthly salary. There's a critical shortage of military housing, and many members are forced to live off base. Tight housing and rental markets in cities near bases have been a chronic problem. The new program takes effect July 1st. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has spent the day being grilled by a parliamentary committee in an appearance that could damage or even end his political career. He was quizzed about misleading statements he made to Parliament about several parties that were held in violation of COVID lockdown rules, so-called Partygate.
I'm here to say to you, hand on heart, that I did not lie to the House. When those statements were made, they were made in good faith and on the basis of what I honestly knew and believed at the time.
The parties were held in government buildings during his time as Prime Minister. If it is determined that Johnson deliberately misled Parliament, he could be suspended and could lose his seat in the House of Commons. Johnson said COVID rules were followed, but he has since admitted he was wrong, but says he did not intentionally mislead his fellow lawmakers. A Reminder that this Sunday, CBC NL and The Rooms are coming together to celebrate Black culture with a free afternoon of activities for young families. It's happening at The Rooms in St. John's from 2 to 4 p.m. There will be music, books, and lots of fun things to do. You can head to our website, cbc.ca/NL, and click on the community page for more details. Heather, you've got a busy job because you're keeping an eye on the snowstorm headed for us this weekend. And I guess it's a little too early to know exactly how it's going to hit us, but it sounds like somewhere is going to get a decent amount of snow.
Somewhere on the eastern half of the island, either Bonavista Peninsula or Avalon Peninsula, could get 15 to 30 centimeters. And Saturday doesn't really look great for the east half of the island as well, because after that storm starts to move away, it could be a snow-rain mix. So welcome to the weekend. Bad news, I'm sorry, but let's start taking a look at that now. And we can see here Thursday evening, tomorrow evening, going to be pretty clear. You can see that that system will be over the Maritimes, but look here. It's coming our way for Friday. And in the daytime on Friday, it looks like it shouldn't be too bad for many places. It looks like we could have a mix of sun and cloud in St. John's and on the Avalon at first. And then on the south coast, it looks like you will start to see some of those effects earlier, so we could have some flurries in the day. But for central, the west coast, we've got some sun and cloud icons here, and that's because the daytime will be, a mix of sun and cloud. We won't really see much from this storm until later in the evening, according to Environment Canada. And on Friday, a mix of sun and cloud for St. Anthony. 2 degrees, and as we get up into Labrador, some cloud here in the Straits, some flurries in Cartwright, flurries possible in Nain, looking like a beautiful day with some sun and cloud in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And we'll see some flurry snow activity in Labrador West as well, associated with all of this. And the winds, we should talk about the winds too. Environment Canada in that special weather statement saying that the winds will be 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. But if you are along the south coast of the island, it looks like they could get up to 100 kilometers per hour. So still something to watch. It depends on what way the low goes, where we get the most snow and accumulation. Moving on to Saturday now, you can see, here we go, the system will start to move away. We'll say goodbye to it, but there will be a little bit of mixing going on and possibly some snow rain mix for the East Coast and for the St. John's area and for the Burin Peninsula. But as we get into central, it looks like we'll see less of a mix. It could stay more as snow, but again, it is early. See a few flurries on the west coast and up into the Straits and St. Anthony and along the coast here in Labrador as well. Some sun and cloud in Happy Valley Goose Bay at 0. It looks like you guys are going to have a great weekend actually. And for our Lab City Wabush area, it looks like -2 and some sun and cloud for you on Saturday. So your temperatures look pretty good. Now the look ahead, the 5-day, looking, not great on the weekend for the East Coast. Temperatures seasonal. As we move into central, it looks like there's pretty well flurries across the board except for Friday. Western Newfoundland, a little bit better. It looks like your flurries are going to be on Thursday and Saturday with a mix of sun and cloud for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So not bad for you folks. And up into Labrador, it looks as though Eastern Labrador, you've got a gem of a forecast, mix of sun and cloud right across the board for you. Not so bad in Western Labrador. Flurries on Friday. And here is our photo of the day. This comes from Ann Madden, and she says that this is witch hazel. So if you have a photo, you can send it to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, a little sign of something good to come, because it wasn't in the forecast.
Had to leave you with some hope.
Well, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Special budget show tomorrow. You'll want to tune in for that.